Good morning and welcome everyone. It is our 9th live today, episode 9 of Mortgage News Live, coming to you this week from leafy Hertfordshire. Thank you as always to our sponsors MPowered, the Intermediary and of course Newspage for their support and tiresome wisecracks. We have another interesting show this morning where we'll be mainly talking about something that does divide people, the whole green agenda. But elsewhere, there have been lots of the usual items in the news of late, with lenders changing criteria both positively and negatively. A large conversation around some of the underwriting decisions lenders have been making of late, as well as the usual rollercoaster ride of mortgage rates. We now have some lenders increasing, some decreasing, and some just trying to keep their heads down. But MPowered Mortgages has reduced rates across its entire fixed rate mortgage range. There you go. You can have a free mug. The Bank of England are expected to hold rates again for the 5th month in a row. Rightmove points to stronger buyer number and sales, with the average price of newly marketed properties rising by 1.5%, according to them. And TSB have reported that the average mortgage term for a first-time buyer has risen by 2 years to 32 years. Meanwhile, our politicians continue to unimpress where housing is concerned, with rumours swirling of yet another leadership challenge. Man, we're so bored of all this. But enough about this. That's not why you came. We have a star-studded panel of experts today who will be discussing some of this and looking at the whole green mortgage agenda. Is it a fad? Is it real? Does it exist? And what can we do to get people more interested into it? So joining us today are Luke Loveridge, who's the founder and CEO of PropFlow. Hi, Luke.
Hello.
The legend that is Gary Bush from
Hello.
mortgageshop.com. Hi, Gary.
Hi, Andy.
And the rather brilliant Amanda Symes-Reeves, who is the product manager of MCube. Hello again, Amanda.
Good morning, Monty.
Good morning. So, first of all, I'm going to start with, we know what Amanda does. Most of you will know what Gary does, but Luke, PropFlow, do you want to tell us in less than 45 minutes what you guys do and who is PropFlow?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, we don't expect mortgage lenders, mortgage brokers, and professionals like estate agents to be experts in retrofit, and it's quite a complex process. So our platform, our end-to-end platform, provides what we call a retrofit as a service. So you don't have to worry about sort of the education piece and connecting people with suppliers. So we've got a portfolio analysis tool, so you can then look at your existing customers and then look at how you target those. We've then got a number of consumer engagement tools, and then we can also verify retrofit works as well. So if they're linked to green mortgages, for example, and we were the first energy efficiency one-stop shop in a mortgage lender, mortgage broker, and estate agent, and we've engaging over 1.4 million homeowners. So yeah, that's us in a nutshell.
Very good. Well, there you go. So very interesting. So we'll come on to a lot of that later. But before we get into the nitty gritty of green, looking at the latest news, what's going on in the market? How's the market been so far this month? Any interesting trends at all? Gary, what are you seeing at the moment?
In a green agenda?
Just generally in the mortgage market generally.
Well, it's chaos, isn't it? That's what I said before, wasn't it? That's my opening line before. Oh God, it's still chaos. I mean, I'm happy to see the rates going down. TSB just announced rates going down, so it's good. We just need to see more downward movement. We need to see positivity in this country. We've got a general election coming up, but we do need to get positive. And there's so much negativity around. It's just we need to pos it up a bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And are you seeing if some of the attitudes changed around with your clients at all in terms of what they're taking? Are they still looking at shorter term fixes still, or actually they're more willing to look at longer term again?
we're having the tracker conversation. We're having the 2-year fixed rate conversation. Generally, I think we're still on 5s, which we don't particularly like at the moment. But people are generally looking for a 5. Some are going longer if they can get them. But the tracker conversation is still there. If you can get a tracker without a redemption penalty, it's worth pitching in and coming out later. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing clients moaning and stating that they can't actually afford the variable rate payment on their deal that's coming to an end, which is, it's a long time since I've seen that. So a bit more panic's going on. So got a couple on my desk today. So yeah, and that's people you don't really expect, high earners. You don't expect to be having a bit of a payment shock. They are literally, on a payment shock, which is not good. So
yeah. And Amanda, from your point of view, we got the next Bank of England base rate decision approaching. The next movement is predicted to be a cut in the summer, so nothing yet. Any changes to that prediction? How are you guys seeing it at the moment? And in terms of, as pricing your products become a little bit easier over the past week or two, or is it still the same challenges?
Do you know what? It's the same ongoing challenges. It's, we keep thinking, is there going to be stability? There's not. And I think when we're looking, longer term, as we always have to, is looking at, further to H2 of this year and beyond as well. We're trying to always gauge our pricing accordingly and also get the best possible rates which we can do for the consumers, as well as obviously our margins as well. And that's what we're seeing across many lenders, is compression of margins as well. But we've also at the same time need to be lending as well. That's what we do, isn't it? So it's an interesting market at the moment. Will rates continue to go down? Let's hope so. Let's hope others follow suit. We've got other lenders we've just mentioned from Gary as well, who've reduced their rates at the moment. Let's hope we can continue on this trend and help those borrowers who are coming off their going on to these SVRs later in the year, and help reduce those payment shocks that they're going to be facing. We're seeing, continuous reports are coming out about people, actually defaulting on their mortgage payments now, and that just really shows where the market is, really.
Yeah. So you've reduced your rates this week, so thank you for that. That's very good. Are you seeing any trends in terms of what borrowers are taking from your point of view, in terms of what products they're favouring over others?
It's an interesting one, because obviously we monitor closely, what others are doing as well as our own as well, and really seeing, you can see where the squeeze is coming, where borrowers are actually, opting for fee freeze. They're looking at it where it used to always be rates. We're noticing it's very much looking at the overall cost of the mortgage, the impact of that, which is great to see. So that's all down to the great work which the brokers do, and are actually taking that more into account. And it's low zero fee products. There's actually many lenders out there who just offer now zero fee product options rather than 999, and also seen a reduction or removal of the high 199 fees and lows over £2,000 fees in the residential space. Still in the buy-to-let space, that's used because it does really help, vice stars on that. But that's what we're noticing ourselves is, zero fee, those more cost-effective options, especially for remortgages, are being selected at the moment.
And Gary, you mentioned Japan has just increased its base rate for the first time in 100,000 years, you said, but certainly a long time. You think there's any read across in that? Any?
Well, interesting. I'm sure the Japanese markets are going to be jumping up and down. I think the Bank of England needs to stop looking across the pond, and they need to look at what's going on in the UK. So we in turn have to ignore what Japan's doing. They were famous for negative interest rates for a long period of time.
Yeah, that's right.
We've really got to stop looking across the pond, because around us people are on the cliff edge, and we do need to sort of start worrying about people. The mortgage arrears and the insolvency rates are just leaping, and we need to stop that. And the government needs to stop worrying about internal fighting and doing its job, really, I hope, as we go up to this general election.
Amen for that. But I can't see them stopping the internal fighting. Luke, any insight from you at all on all of this?
What, on politics or...
whatever you like, really.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I've spoken to quite a few lenders over the past 6 months, and just in terms of the green mortgage side of things, a lot of are planning to bring out new products around green, but I think at the moment it's very much quite thin on the ground, and even some of the really amazing sort of green additional borrowing from Nationwide, for example, which is 0% over 5 years, up to 15 grand. That's only a trial, right? And are they going to continue with that? A lot of generous cashback. So, for example, Barclays I think it's 2 grand for solar panels, £1 for heat pumps. So you could potentially get a heat pump for free. With that, I think that's now ended as well. So it's what is coming through in terms of green mortgages and incentives for this, I think.
And that's an interesting point going on to green. So from my point of view, I've been quite critical about it in terms of it. I don't think there are any green mortgages. There are no green mortgages. There's one actually, and that's Danske Bank, and that is what they do in terms of their whole process is certified by the Carbon Trust, I think it is. And actually,
you've also got Ecology Building Society.
Ecology have been the other one,
They're top. They really are.
Yeah. But apart from that, is it all just greenwashing? Is it all a bit of a gimmick? The fact that if you're offering 0.1 or 0.2% off if you've already got an ABC rating, that's not going to change anything. So where do you think people need to go to actually make a difference? And I'll come on to clients and what they want in a second, because but really it's what we've got out there. It's not green, is it?
Well, I suppose it doesn't need to be. I think the key issue is demand. If you want to get a new kitchen, or make other home improvements, you don't necessarily, you want to obviously get a cheap rate, but you're not expecting a home improvement discount rate, are you? Sort of this is sort of bread and butter home improvement stuff. The key thing is demand for energy efficiency improvements, and part of that is creating awareness of it, and having the right finance and not overcomplicating that finance as well. Because with green mortgages at the moment, yes, there's cashback incentives, there's retrofit mortgages, obviously discounts discount off the rates as you mentioned. I also think there's quite a lot that could be explored in terms of different criteria, affordability, income rate, multiples, etc. But ultimately, it's more around demand and awareness of consumers and how brokers and lenders can actually leverage their influence and their reach to increase the knowledge of the benefits and why people should do retrofitting.
Gary, from your perspective, do you see clients who actually care about this? Are you seeing buyer demand change? Are more people who are really keen on buying something that's energy efficient, and are people coming to you remortgaging, wanting to raise funds to improve their home in a green manner at all?
Well, 18 months ago, I think it probably died. People just literally hunkered down. I'm worried about the shock that's coming due to the rate situation. I mean, the general public are generally interested in how they can move things, but the system doesn't really make it easier. I mean, the EPC is not a great system at the best. I've got a stat here for you. 87% of new homes in 2022 were given an A or B rating. Well, why wasn't that 100% given an A rating? So because I mean, I also look at the average EPC for the whole of the UK is a band D. Yeah. Most of the initiatives float around A or B. We're a mile short, or 100 miles short, in fact.
Yeah.
I do think Saffron Building Society were one of the first to bring out a retrofit mortgage. So if you go up, so I think they were sort of leading them on that, and I don't think they really shouted. Maybe it was sort of too early on that, but I do think retrofit mortgages where you are rewarded for going up bands, because what if you can never get to a C or a B? Exactly. But you're a G, but you could skip to a D. That's still quite a significant improvement, right? So I do think there are certain aspects which are underserved at the moment, and that is one of them.
Yeah. Amanda, from your point of view, in terms of the green product development, How does it look for you?
It's a really interesting one. I see it, we've been kind of in generation one of green mortgages. And, you know, since the past, you can see the past decade, and it's amazing what's been done there across various lenders, various products, incentives out there. But I think you can, knowing what other lenders have got in the pipeline as well, it's almost 2025 up to 2030, 2035 is going to be generation two. There's so much bubbling in the industry, what we can do. I think what's key as well is what's coming out on the 31st of May from the FCA. That anti-greenwashing policy that's coming out, or guidance which is coming out, I think that's going to set precedents as well. And there's other plans in place as well at the moment to make sure, you know, kind of giving ourselves a kite mark as a lender when we're coming out with green products, to give that. And what does green mean? Should we be using that? There's no actual definition of what green means, and how is consumers supposed to understand that as well? So as an industry, and it's great, you know, of course, seeing lenders, we all kind of look across and support. I think everyone has been supportive on this. When I've been in various green committees as well across the industry, we all collectively want to do this, and we know the issue that's there as well there, which is great. I don't think I've known that across any other incentive across the industry before, where we've all collectively want to do what's right for the consumer, which is great. But again, as I go back to what is green, that really needs something which we need to collectively decide on what that is, have a kite mark, and know what's this, avoiding the greenwashing. I myself, you know, 6-7 years ago, did launch, I remember, one of the first shared green ownerships, a little discount off there. There we go. Is that right? You know, as Gary just mentioned, with a property rated AB, they're getting a discount. It's that stock. 60% of our building stock is D or below. What are we doing on that? And what's the government doing on this as well?
Yeah.
Absolutely shocking. When you look at 2012, dear old David Cameron, what am I saying dear, actually? Put in a different word for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say dear.
I know.
Something else beginning with D, but anyway, carry on.
Absolutely.
You're talking about a lord. He's a lord. Come on now. Give him respect.
There we go. Anyway, so what has he done to help? He's actually reversed, he unpicked everything. We're doing such a great job in the UK. The UK installing, was it in 2012, here's a stat for you, UK installed 2.3 million units of home insulation. Now, if that hadn't been stopped in 2013, so you think this is 10 years on, let me get the stat, we would have actually saved putting that, keeping going, that insulation of the properties, which is a key change. I think it would have reduced the overall uses of gas by over 15% by now.
Yeah. And that's key. That's key as a country, right? Because if we were more self-sufficient and energy efficient, generating a lot more renewables on our own homes nationally, we wouldn't have seen as much of a price peak after at the start of the war. So part of it is sort of it's not just about climate change, because that does again create lots of divided opinions sometimes. But actually, I think the key, most present thing is our national energy security. We should just become getting off gas and being more energy efficient will essentially increase our sovereignty, because it means more money is retained within the country, and we're not reliant on Russia and other countries for our energy. We import in a normal year nearly 50 billion of fossil fuels importing. In 2022, I think it was 117 billion. So the national thing, it just makes sense. But how do we pass that and make it connect to homeowners
also,
go on, Gary.
The big problem is we still have new build properties that don't have solar panels, don't have heat pumps. There should be no planning applications approved without all forms of everything you can possibly do to a new property, because you're starting from a brownfield site or a greenfield site, or wherever you're starting from. You're starting from a position of someone's got to do what they've got to do. It's much cheaper to put it in at that end of the market. As Luke says, if all the properties for the last 20 years had all had solar panels, or heat pumps, we'd be in a much better position with the Ukraine war, wouldn't we? Because we'd be relying on ourselves. I mean, people sort of negative on the solar panels. We don't have any sun, blah 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 blah. I've physically installed these myself, I've also put in recycled water projects and all sorts of strange things on properties, and it all works. You just got to do it, I mean, but the problem is, it needs to start at the top. The new stock needs to all be A++, really. and they're trying to achieve A, but they're only getting A, B. They should really be A++. If they're coming out brand new, they should look for passive house, really, shouldn't they, Amanda?
Absolutely. And I really, with what you're saying there, Gary, it's so important. And how can we support this, as an industry as well, kind of pushing back on a new build as well? Maybe that's what we need to come out with, an A++ mortgage. That should give them a bit of incentive, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's
people don't know it exists. They don't know about passive house. I mean, the Europeans, some of the Europeans are pretty good on this.
Yeah,
I think that's really interesting, actually, Amanda, around actually setting, if we came up with an A++ that would help builders sell their stock if they built it, then that would certainly change behavior, because you're right, both of you, we have to change the behavior of the builders for them to build that stock.
But so I completely agree with you, and it should just be default, right? So that solar panels, heat pumps, or in new builds. But I saw a stat where I think it's in 2050, 70% of buildings in 2050 are already built. So it's the retrofit piece which really needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Like the new build, it just should be done. It should be A as a standard. But 70% of buildings still need to be retrofitted, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to come on to that, because there are a couple things with the retrofit. So we're all agreed on new stock, but with the existing stock, of which a lot of them, like you said, it's very hard for them ever to get to an A or B. But part of the issue is around EPCs themselves. Are they fit for purpose? Are they the right measure? Are the right people doing them? Because we know that actually you can get 3 people round to the same house, and you might get 2 or 3 different gradings, which can make all the difference. Is there something better than EPCs? Are they fit for purpose?
It's a good start.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with Gary. What are the alternatives? So the alternative is a retrofit assessment, which costs about £600, right?
Yeah.
So what's it trying to do? It's trying to give a homeowner comparison from other properties, roughly. And I think, as Gary said, it's a good start. And actually, the core, the sort of model behind it is actually quite robust. And what you were saying now, Andrew, it's really about the quality of contractors that you use. One lender we were speaking to that wanted a pre and post works EPC. They want the same one and have that sort of quality assured, basically. So you can get a EPC for about 60, 65, 70 pounds.
I paid 70 for mine.
So compared to like 600, and so I won't sort of plug our sort of platform too much, but we take EPC as the core data, then overlay other data sets to make it more accurate. But again, it's getting that balance between investing, because we could get data sets which cost the earth, and make it absolutely bang on accurate, but then we need to make money and pass that on somehow. So I think with open data sets and EPC as a core, that really gives you a good understanding. And there's a number of tools, not just ours, out there, which is providing decent models of homes, so that can help you choose different solutions and understand risk and opportunity.
And then there's the whole retrofit question, which some clients they're not sure, A, which contractors to use, B, actually what type of insulation do they use. We've seen what's happened with certain aspects of spray foam insulation, and then there's a question of heat pumps themselves. Are they proven it? Are they going to change in 5 years' time? Is something else going to come out? Actually, are we going to have to look at not just retrofitting, but double retrofitting as technology evolves? When do I do it now? Do I wait? And then actually the cost of that retrofitting, what do I get from that? If I'm spending 10 grand and it's saving me a couple of quid a month off my bill, actually, what is it saving? Which goes back actually to maybe what the mortgage products can do, is actually once you're retrofitted or once you spent money for that, once you've gone from maybe a D to a C, then actually there's a really good saving on your mortgage, really to give people that want to do it in terms of pounds and pence.
Well, the problem with most of the property stock in the UK is a heat pump won't work, because if you just, I mean, they do work, but a heat pump won't work in majority of cases because of the way the tightness of the stock is, because of the noise generated by heat pumps. If everyone in a row of terraced houses had a heat pump, it would generate a noise nuisance that's ridiculous. So we're it's early days, it really is. I mean, they do work. I mean, I particularly like ground source heat pumps. If you've got the land, they work much better. But I mean, stories that are out there, that it is the Wild West. People are going in early to get heat pumps, showing initiative, which is great. But it's like the Wild West out there. There's a lot of cowboys. And they're saying, well, you know, let's put in a new immersion cylinder just for when you don't get your hot water for your shower, because the air pump's not really going to do the business. It's like, well, this is not, and that's not the kind of retrofit we need in life, So the government needs to jump in here. There needs to be some kind of strict regulation of, if it is, a retrofit we're looking for, we need to have a set of guidelines as to, to try and eliminate these cowboys.
Yeah, I would plug another. Well, they're not a competitor, but there's a company called Heat Geeks, and they actually guarantee something called COP, so the sort of the efficiency of the heat pump. So and I just think, because I've got a new build house, right, and I've got the room for a heat pump, but would I get it? Like, what's stopping me from getting a heat pump now? Because I could get it very low cost or almost for free, right? With the grand. So yeah, what's stopping me? So firstly, I've got a patio and I need to do some work to that patio. So I don't want to put a heat pump on it and then have to move the heat pump and do. So there's sort of practical issues around it. And what I was looking at, so what are some of the alternatives? So there are some sort of heat batteries, and I did like a load of calculations around, so if I could like charge the battery, for example, like this heat battery overnight, where with a lower electricity rate, would it still work out? And it was probably a little bit less efficient than a heat pump, but actually it means I would probably replace that now. So I think it is. There are definitely some homes where it is, maybe like about 10%, 10-15%, where heat pumps are a no-brainer and you can do it. It's just about the timing. So is your boiler needing replacing at certain trigger points. But for the rest, I think there are potentially other solutions. There's air-to-air heat pumps, there's like heat batteries, there's one solution is looking at sort of infrared heating. So I do think it's definitely early stages still, but that's why early adopters are getting $7,500 from government to sort of take the risk, basically. So it just reminds me of early days of solar panels where hardly any. It was very good. Is it feed-in tariffs? I think they were getting significant amounts,
and they got stolen.
Really tailed off. Sorry.
Yeah, they got stolen. The tariff should be, if you're self-producing, the tariff should be good. I mean, those anyone had one of those tariffs. I mean, that's the way the market's going to need to go.
Yeah.
People are doing solar panels, but they're just they're being stitched up whenever they get a chance. It's a bit like go and buy a diesel because they're better for the environment. Oh no, suddenly no, it's not diesel, it's unleaded. We want to do. I mean,
exactly. That's a good
see that con coming, and it's not good. We need to have some control over this stuff, because it can all work if we get it. I mean, I've got a stat here that by 2030, the government have said that heat pumps have got to try and get price parity with gas boilers. So we've got 6 years. I know, Luke, how's it going to happen?
That's not, and they want to install 600,000 a year. It's just, they're way off, and they need, just the U-turn in regulation on the private rented sector. Instead of U-turning, why don't you just delay it or change the variables, and then that gives at least certainty. It gives help or support. Yeah, exactly. 0%. In Scotland, they've got 0% loans, right? Could they? Instead of a help to buy, what about help to retrofit? Delivered through mortgage lenders, right? But nothing sort of coming out of government. So they do need some stability there. Just to pick up on your point, Andrew, in terms of like who do you go for? I think it's I think we also need to disaggregate between energy efficiency and net zero, because a property could be a G, but they could be net zero tomorrow by just getting off gas. But it might be very costly because they're leaking heat. But so what we want to do is get properties up to, like, really energy efficient, producing their energy, and then getting off gas, which could be a heat pump, could be other sources. So how do you sort of incentivize that? And I think some lenders are even starting to sort of, not necessarily go by EPC banding, but just rewarding, if you get a solar panels, heat pump and insulation, here's a reward, or here's, either discount or cash back, etc. And then just in terms of who you go with, who you trust, there's definitely going to be cowboys, particularly when there's grants, sort of when you can get something for free, when it's technically not free, we all pay for it. Personally, there's obviously Trustmark register schemes, and you can look at contractors, your local contractors there. We use people that are accredited, do have national coverage, and that we've used ourselves. I've used the solar installers that we recommend. I've used myself, so we know their quality, good Trustpilot reviews, etc. But there are lots of resources out there to help you. I think the problem is there's almost too many resources now.
It's a minefield. I'm just going to use Gary to install my install my solar panels.
Yep.
Is he insured? Is it?
I don't care. I've heard he's the cheapest.
Some would say I'm over-insured, to be honest.
So, Amanda, we talking about what more can lenders do to really, if you are, say you do, I'm a big believer in a lovely flexible product, which is actually green all the way through. Everything's offset. The carbon emission in terms of providing the mortgage should always be offset. So the mortgage process itself should be zero rated. But actually, in terms of, if you do get someone, you can give them all loans for me should have a built-in 15 grand automatic further advance if it can be proved to be for retrofitting or increasing it. But then if you do take it from a D to a C, what more can you do to really help borrowers say, okay, this is really worth it? Because if I do make that improvement, I go up a banding, my mortgage payments are going to come down. Is that something you think lenders can do?
There's quite a lot which lenders can potentially do going forward into generation 2 of green mortgages. I think you've picked up a couple of key things there, Monty. It's like to look at, first of all, when you do go up. So first of all, incentivize actually increasing the efficiency of the property, be it rather by the EPC or the bandings, or giving particular by showing what you've gone up by and incentivizing that. That's key. Also, you've mentioned about having that kind of cash reserve. I haven't had those for ages in the mortgage, actually, but actually to have that, a cash reserve pot, I have to say, always been a fan of offset lending as well. So almost have that offset reserve, a green offset. There we go. So you can then dip in, prove that you've then done this, and then with the affordable is then, I think when you go up a banding is then with affordability. I think that comes critical as well, to look then, can you actually borrow more? Because actually now you're saving money on a monthly basis. Can we use that into affordability? I know there's a couple of schemes out there that's been trialed, which actually can we do that? And I think that really shows the benefit to consumers as well, rather than maybe getting a bit of a discount for these, these almost unicorn properties out there at the moment with these new builds. To actually go, what does it mean for me as a consumer, me as a borrower? And we know with what's happened in the past 18 months, 2 years with affordability, people coming off their low fixed rates, they've got these payment shocks. Are there something which we can do to help them by going, it may not be immediate now, but by improving the quality of your property, you're going to reduce your monthly bills. And I think that really helps people, doesn't it, by doing that? So we can look at that. So incentivize those, increasing the EPC rate, the energy efficiency of the property, supporting those by actually having that green reserve potentially, and also supporting by actually giving incentives on affordability and to be able to borrow more if required, obviously, and responsibly. Okay, that's something which we can build in as well.
I think affordability all lenders should just be factoring that into affordability, because not only does it just should be standard, but because it also drives the valuation of the property as well. If buyers can afford to pay more for a property, that means you're increasing the market for your property when you go on to sell it. So it is an indirect link to valuation. So it's a no-brainer. I think my question for Amanda, I suppose it might not necessarily be as applicable to MPowered, but it'd be interesting to understand your motivations as a lender for giving discounts or green mortgages. You know, we know, you know, you need to, you know, lenders need to report on their scope 3 emissions, which are quite significant. So is it around risk mitigation? Is it around engaging your customers differently, adding different value for your customers? What's in it for lenders? And I think we just need to understand what all the, you know, along the sort of value chain, who's benefiting and why. And I think that then we can start to design quite interesting green mortgage products, actually, which hit the need and benefit everyone.
Absolutely, Luke. I think you've picked up a couple of key points there. It's that, you know, that incentivization and what it means for lenders as well. I'll speak just generally my own view and not from my experience of being in product management for far too many years now, various lenders, big banks, building societies, and also with tech specialists, MPowered mortgages. What is interesting is when we've seen the greenwashing and those discounts. And I think in the world of consumer duty, and something which I truly myself personally believe in, is that we should be giving the best rates possible for all customers, not based on the property. What we need to look to do is incentivize consumers to improve their property, and is giving that discount. So I myself live in the D property, banned property. I had no option but to buy that, and busy renovating my property at the moment. For the past 2 years, I've been renovating it. And it's really interesting when you put that lens onto it as well, going as a consumer, what I want to do, what I need to do as well to improve my overall energy efficiency. And I've already seen my bills are coming down from the various things, changes I've made. But from a lender's point of view, and should I therefore saying that I should not be able to get the best rate possible because my property's a D, I'm doing everything possible. I had no option. There's no A or B new build properties in my area. Should I be subject? So no, I personally think we should be looking to incentivize, move away from greenwashing. That's generation one. Yes, we've done that, and they've served their purpose. Now we should be looking at how can we improve energy efficiency and then promote that as lenders. There's some great lenders out there, you know, NatWest, New Hub, what Halifax have been doing as well, Energy Savings Trust, those tools. It'd be great, you know, if we could have those across for all lenders as well. Some really great tools there, like with yourself, Luke, as well.
Yeah.
Are we able to incentivize and give that educational? So giving a discount is, I'd say, we need to maybe, there is, you know, it serves a purpose, but going forward, we need to look at building much more savvy products which actually incentivize the consumer themselves, help educate them, and help them actually improve the efficiency of their property.
Yeah. Well, I think as far as lenders are concerned, sorry, Monty, do you want to?
No, go on, go.
As far as lenders are concerned, I know how the yin and yang with lenders works. You know, you want to have the client for the rest of their lives. You don't want them to remortgage. You want them to pay as maximum product fee possible. You want to lend within a reasonable boundaries, and you want to, you know, make money, which is what it's all about. I think really, to be honest, Amanda, you're in a really good position with the experience you've got, and obviously I've got a lot of experience, and so is Monty, of what's happened in the past. You know, the manufacture of products. What we need to try and look for is, you've got Perenna at the moment looking at the American view of a fixed mortgage that goes on forever, and you know, it benefits the broker. They're very clever. It benefits the broker to stay on that deal, which is good. It's good for us. I think really, Amanda, you're in a perfect position to put in a flexible, long-term, locked-in client with all these extra things you can, as you say, I mean, putting in to try and keep you happy, because obviously it's all about pounds, shillings and pence to lenders, but also keep the clients happy. The mortgage market, I don't want to harp on Perenna too much, but I think they've got some good ideas. They're a little early as far as I'm concerned, and we shouldn't always look to the States, as I've already previously said, but I think as far as a lender's concerned, the way you keep your products profitable to allow all these bells and whistles for green agenda would be to lock them in longer, but offer them real nice facilities. So I think particularly for, I mean, if everyone tries to reach for an A or B, it's expensive. 15,000 doesn't get anywhere close to it for the average property. So you need to try and look at, okay, how big's your property? It should really be scaled on. If it's a 1-bedroom flat, they're much easier to do. You know, if it's a 4-bedroom detached, you know, it's a lot harder. The levels need to increase for the property problem, rather than just saying, oh, 15 grand. I mean, nationwide, I like the nationwide incentive. But 15 grand, seriously, you can't get a decent solar installation really, and a decent one with really decent battery capacity, massive storage that can take you through months and months with 15 grand. So, I mean, we really do need to look at, while you're manufacturing products, to try and push down that road,
I think 15 grand, like say my solar array cost about 10 grand, decent with a battery.
Yeah, but it's multiple batteries. I mean, I'm putting money in. I'm going to put 5 battery units in. They're really expensive, those things. But the thing is, I won't want to have to look at energy problems because I could power my next door neighbours.
Yeah. But I mean, combine. So yeah, if you have solar, battery, plus a heat pump, plus some minor insulation, not the sort of solid wall, 15 grand you could probably get away with. But you are right, other properties, 15 grand isn't going to be enough. So for sure, and like I said, I think it is, what are we trying to achieve? Are we trying to achieve getting off gas, so net zero, or are we trying to make it more energy efficient? They're complementary, but they are slightly different. So we just need to I think lenders just need to be clear about what they're trying to incentivize, because if it's purely energy efficiency, I mean, a heat pump could actually take your sort of EPC a bit lower at the moment, because it's based on the price of electricity. So it's about cost effectiveness, not about, even though that property would be greener because it would be off gas, it might actually affect that. So if let's say you're a buy-to-let lender and new minimum energy efficiency standards come out, what are you going to tell your landlords? To get heat pumps, which could potentially lower the EPC, which then can make you non-compliant with energy efficiency standards and get fined. So you do have to be careful with some of these things around, is it energy efficiency or is it net zero? I think for lenders, and being clear on that.
And so obviously we've got a general election coming up, and you've had the current government who've U-turned on some stuff, but you also have the Labour government who've realised that they can't raise the 20 or so billion they thought, 18 billion I think it was for
28,
but they're 28, something like that. I knew there was an 8 and a 2 in there somewhere. Around their energy efficiency. Do you think a new government, that's going to be priority again? Are you talking to
whoever gets in will need to address particularly the private rented sector? I just saw that the UK committed to some international agreement recently and one part of it was around increasing property standards in terms of energy efficiency. And I thought, hang on a minute, you turned a few months ago, but then you're agreeing to some internet. So I think whoever gets in, they will need to tackle, in fact, not just the private rent sector, because they do have that, is it 2035? They want all properties up to a C. I think whoever gets in is going to have to address it. I don't think you necessarily need public sector money. Is not going to make not going to get us to hit our targets, basically. So it can be used as leverage. So how can you best use that limited public sector money to leverage in private sector funding? And I'm thinking particularly like pension funds, giving like low, essentially returns. So not like interest free, but maybe a lower rate for interest. But those pension funds are then greener, and particularly sort of like local government pension funds, which are based locally as well. I think those could be quite interesting to combine with government funding. So you might not necessarily need 28 billion from government, but more political certainty, regulatory certainty. I think that is what would then leverage in private investment, and companies like myself, our company, sort of investing in tools and the supply chain.
Yeah, there's definitely an opportunity for the UK to be a leader in green energy, green efficiency, green jobs, all of that stuff. But we seem to be missing the boat at the moment.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, it doesn't help when the government doesn't save a wind turbine company from going bankrupt. And then we're importing all those wind turbines in at extra costs because of the tariffs. So, but the nearsighted approach needs to stop. Whether a new government's going to be able to grab this and take control of it remains to be seen. I just look at another stat that the government's released that by 2026 they're going to start rolling out hydrogen. So
not for residential, I don't think. I think there's been a lot of backlash for
untested hydrogen.
Yeah. It doesn't make cost wise, it doesn't make sense. And there's been it's just that people are up in arms about it in some of these test villages, which were meant to go hydrogen, and they're like, "Don't give me hydrogen, that could explode." Hindenburg type things. Even though,
absolutely. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, everything.
Right. Well, I think we're sort of almost out of time. So, sum up, 2 sentences. Look to the future. What do you think is? What do you think we need to do right now, Luke?
For me, I think it's how we leverage mortgage brokers, lenders, and estate agents and others sort of channels into consumers to raise awareness, make it simpler for them to retrofit, and make it a win-win as well. So, brokers, there's a lot of supplier incentives as well and bulk discounts for consumers. I think 2 billion in terms of the mortgage properties. So that could be accessed by lenders, brokers, and estate agents. So I do think it's how we can, and obviously we've got some tools that can help, but how can we collectively sort of nudge and create awareness and shift people's behavior really. That's what I think.
Thank you. Gary?
We need all builders to be forced to have A-rated houses being released, and they shouldn't be allowed to get completion until they get them. They need to come with all the heat pumps possible, subject to land, obviously, and noise, and solar panels. We need lenders to literally look at it again and work at really incentivizing. I've seen discounts. I mean, I hate the phrase discount because we're in a fixed market, so I don't even want to hear discount, to be honest. I want to hear a product that is flexible, that has the ability to have the checkbook release for the monies. I don't think there should be a limit of 15,000. I think that does take it too low. I mean, I'm particularly busy doing building work on all aspects, and things cost a lot of money if you do it correctly. I'm a bit anal. Obviously, 5 battery packs I've already confirmed, so that's stupid. They're £5,000 each.
Major.
But that's the right way of doing things. If you look on a long-term plan, that's the correct way of doing it. But I think we need to see lenders like MPowered go for this really big time.
Amanda, final words?
Final words are, we really need to, lenders, ourselves at MPowered, lenders collectively, to work with the whole supply chain, as Luke was mentioning, to be able to go forward and come on to generation 2 of green lending, be able to support our consumers, make sure they've got the information, they've got the tools there, be able to build products which actually give what's required as well, the incentives, the encouragement, and also support to make to help improve housing stock, as Gary was mentioning. And finally, that can only be done when we work together. And ideally, there's a Green Finance Institute come up with standards, kite marks as well, to show ourselves as lenders that we're not just greenwashing, that we can stand by conviction with our products, almost have those green kite marks, which we can then give across the industry as well. And we know that this product actually does what it's meant to do.
Thank you. Amen. So thank you very much to my guests. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Amanda. An article about this live will appear in the Intermediary, and I do encourage you all to get involved with Newspage. As always, the more voices we have, the better. We did want to start shouting out Star Broker of the Week at the end of each webinar. So please tag MPowered on socials when you've seen a broker go above and beyond. And we have our first one. So a shout out to Star Broker of the Week, Steve Arnold at Create Finance. Steve recently delivered outstanding service to his clients. His passion, politeness, and promptness ensured a seamless application process, making his client's first house purchase a breeze. So well done, Steve. Well done, Steve. Finally, remember, you can listen to all of these on Spotify podcasts. If you have enjoyed it, please leave a comment. And I've been Andrew Montlake. If you haven't enjoyed it, then I have been Greta Thunberg. Until next time, have a great week.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Thank you.